She was afraid to start a family with a human until she met the soldier. Kelara's long, slender fingers hovered over the communication console as she stared at the holographic display. The station hummed quietly around her, a vast neutral hub orbiting the pale blue planet of Lethera. She had been here for almost a month, negotiating treaties, mediating disputes, and trying her best not to let her fear of humans interfere with her duties. She leaned back in her chair, letting out a small sigh. Humans, so unpredictable, so emotional, so loud. And yet here they were, one of the galaxy's fastest-growing species, with colonies stretching across star systems. She had been raised to admire humans from a distance, to study them, but never to trust them with the responsibility of family. The very thought made her chest tighten. Kelara's species, the Zythurians, valued stability, planning, and calm logic. To think of sharing her life, and possibly her future, with a human was unsettling. They were so full of contradictions, capable of great courage but also of reckless action, capable of love but often clumsy in showing it. A faint alarm buzzed in the corner of her console, pulling her from her thoughts. Kelara straightened immediately. "Security breach detected," she murmured, her multifaceted eyes scanning the readouts. Within moments, the hum of the station's elevators shifted. A figure stepped through the transparent doors, a human, tall, broad-shouldered, clad in a dark protective uniform that gleamed under the station's artificial lights. Marcus Venn. Kelara had met him only once before, briefly. He was assigned as the station's security officer for high-ranking delegates. His reputation preceded him, brave, disciplined, and stubbornly loyal. Even from her cautious distance, she had to admit he carried himself with a confidence that most humans lacked. "Captain Venn," she said formally, keeping her tone neutral. "What brings you to the delegation wing?" Marcus inclined his head slightly, his dark eyes scanning the room as if assessing every potential threat. "Routine check, but I see we have an alert. I'll take a look." Kelara watched him move with ease. His steps were light but purposeful, each action precise. She noted the way his hand hovered near his sidearm, not in aggression but in readiness. She had expected humans to panic, to overreact, but Marcus exuded calm authority. They walked together toward the source of the alert. Kelara's translator earpiece relayed updates in soft Zythurian tones. "A breach in the lower docking bay," she said, gesturing to the station's map. "It appears unauthorized personnel have accessed a restricted area." Marcus nodded. "I'll handle it." His voice carried quiet confidence, a tone she found strangely comforting. Kelara had expected humans to shout, to demand orders, but he did not. They arrived at the docking bay within minutes. The hum of docking engines and the faint clank of machinery filled the space. Several figures clad in dark suits moved suspiciously near the storage units. They looked foreign, clearly not from any official delegation. Marcus stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "Stop where you are. Identify yourselves." The intruders froze, clearly startled by the human's presence. Kelara's heart raced, not from fear, but from a strange sense of anticipation. She had seen humans in reports, on training simulations, and even in historical archives, but nothing compared to witnessing one in action, so composed and assertive. The intruders made a move, one stepping toward a container. Marcus reacted instantly. With a swift movement, he blocked their path, his hand on his sidearm but careful not to fire immediately. "I said stop," he repeated. His tone carried a weight of authority that made Kelara realize just how effective humans could be when they acted decisively. Kelara felt herself holding her breath. She was trained in negotiation, in calm reasoning, in using her species' psychic abilities to de-escalate conflict. But here, in this moment, Marcus was the center of control. His instincts, honed through training and battlefield experience, allowed him to handle the situation with minimal risk. The intruders hesitated, then slowly backed away, raising their hands. Marcus stepped forward, securing them with quick, efficient motions that spoke of countless hours of discipline. Kelara couldn't help but be impressed. Humans might be impulsive at times, but when they acted with purpose, they were formidable. "Thank you," Kelara said quietly, her tone carrying genuine respect. Marcus shrugged, a faint smile appearing on his face. "It's part of the job. You should see what I deal with on the front lines." Kelara's eyes narrowed slightly. Front lines? She had assumed humans would be relegated to defensive roles here in a diplomatic station, but Marcus's presence suggested otherwise. "You have experience in battle." he nodded. Years of it. I've been stationed in conflict zones across several systems. Learned a lot about people, about survival, about what's worth protecting. Kilara studied him. There was honesty in his eyes, a quiet intensity that made her pulse quicken in an unfamiliar way. She had spent her life analyzing humans academically, but standing next to one, alive, capable, and brave, was an entirely different experience. As the intruders were escorted away by station security, Kilara found herself walking alongside Marcus, discussing the situation in calm, measured tones. She noticed small details, the way he paused to make sure each security officer knew their role, the way he reassured a shaken maintenance worker, the subtle humor he used to lighten the tension. For the first time, Kilara felt her preconceptions about humans begin to shift. They weren't reckless or chaotic. They were unpredictable, yes, but also courageous, resourceful, and deeply loyal. Humans could inspire others in ways her species rarely did. The day passed in a blur of reports, debriefings, and strategic discussions. Kilara returned to her quarters exhausted but contemplative. She sat by the window looking out at the stars. Lethira's pale light shimmered across the docking bays, casting soft reflections on the glass. Her mind replayed the events of the day. Marcus's presence had stirred something she hadn't expected: admiration, curiosity, even a trace of longing. She reminded herself sternly, she was here to negotiate treaties, not to entertain personal feelings. Yet the idea that humans could be more than impulsive, dangerous creatures was now firmly planted in her mind. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. It was a message from the station administrator, requesting her presence in the council chambers for a briefing on the human delegation's plans. Kilara rose, straightened her uniform, and left her quarters, her thoughts lingering on the soldier she had just met. In the council chambers, discussions were tense. Human and Zythurian delegates sat across from each other, voices rising and falling as they debated trade agreements, territorial boundaries, and mutual security measures. Kilara took notes, listened carefully, and occasionally interjected to clarify misunderstandings. Marcus was stationed nearby, observing the council quietly, yet his presence was palpable. Delegates seemed to defer to him subtly, acknowledging the human soldier's reputation even without words. Kilara watched him, noting the same calm confidence, the same quiet authority that had resolved the breach earlier. After the council, Kilara found herself walking beside Marcus again. "You seem different from what I expected," she said carefully. "Humans are not usually as organized." Marcus chuckled softly. "We can be messy," he admitted. "But when it matters, we adapt, we survive. And sometimes we lead." Kilara paused, thinking about those words. There was a simple truth in them, a perspective that her species rarely considered. Humans survived, not just through strength or intelligence, but through courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to risk themselves for others. She realized with a mixture of awe and apprehension that her fear of humans, of partnering with one, of starting a family, was rooted in assumptions, not reality. She had feared unpredictability, but Marcus's actions today had shown her that unpredictability could coexist with honor, bravery, and loyalty. That evening, as the station lights dimmed and the corridors emptied, Kilara found herself returning to her quarters. She sat by the window again, gazing at the stars, thinking about what she had learned today. Humans were complicated, yes, but they were also remarkable, and Captain Marcus Venn was living proof of their potential. For the first time in her life, Kilara allowed herself a thought she had never dared before. Perhaps humans were not as frightening as she had believed. Perhaps, with the right human, the future could be brighter, and maybe, just maybe, worth taking a chance on. Her eyes lingered on the distant stars, imagining a future filled with possibilities. A future where courage, loyalty, and love could bridge the gap between species. A future that began with a soldier she had once feared, and now admired. The next morning, Kilara woke to the soft hum of the station. Light from Lethira's sun filtered through the wide observation windows, painting the walls with pale gold. Today, she had a mission unlike any before. She would accompany Captain Marcus Venn to investigate a security anomaly in the outer docking sectors. She adjusted her uniform carefully. Her chest tightened slightly at the thought of spending extended time with Marcus. His presence was commanding yet comforting, and it stirred feelings she had long tried to suppress. She shook her head. Focus on the mission, she reminded herself. Emotions were dangerous, especially around humans. The corridor to the docking sectors was alive with activity. Human and Zythurian engineers moved side by side, their conversations a mixture of languages and mechanical jargon. Kilara walked beside Marcus, keeping her pace measured. He noticed her tension and gave her a small, reassuring nod. "Don't worry," he said in his calm voice. "We'll handle this together." Kilara raised an eyebrow. "Together, do you often work with diplomats in security operations?" Marcus chuckled softly. "Not really, but I've learned that teamwork sometimes means working with people you don't fully understand." You're calm. "You think before you act, that's rare and valuable." Kilara blinked. No human had ever complimented her in this way. Most treated diplomats like fragile objects, not strategic partners. She felt a small spark of trust, though she would never admit it aloud. When they reached the outer docking sectors, the scene was chaotic. Cargo drones hovered in the air, their lights blinking erratically. Some were offline entirely, slamming into crates with dangerous momentum. Human and Zythurian technicians were struggling to regain control, shouting over the alarms. Marcus didn't hesitate. He moved swiftly, issuing commands with clear authority. Kilara observed, fascinated. His voice carried weight, not because of volume, but because of certainty. "Unit 5, recalibrate thrusters," he ordered. "Unit 9, secure that container before it falls. Everyone else, keep the area clear." Kilara felt a thrill. Humans were often impulsive, she had believed, but here Marcus combined instinct and strategy in a way that was impressive. She stepped forward, using her psychic ability to stabilize a drone that threatened to crash into the walkway. Marcus glanced at her. "Good work," he said simply. No exaggeration, no false praise, just acknowledgement. Kilara's chest warmed. Together, they moved through the sector, coordinating both human and Zythurian teams. Marcus's efficiency and calm inspired confidence, while Kilara's precision and foresight kept them safe from mistakes. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the sector. A container, improperly secured, had toppled over. Inside, it housed delicate Zythurian artifacts, centuries old. Kilara's eyes widened in alarm. Without thinking, Marcus sprinted forward, catching the container before it could hit the floor. He grunted, straining against the weight, but managed to hold it steady. Kilara rushed to help, using her strength to support the side. "You're stronger than you look," she said, a small smile breaking through her tension. Marcus laughed, slightly out of breath. "Strength isn't everything. Timing matters too." Kilara shook her head in disbelief. Humans were full of surprises. They could act quickly, adapt, and find solutions in moments of crisis. Her preconceptions about them as reckless and emotional were proving wrong. Once the container was safely secured, Marcus turned to her. "You know," he said, "most humans would have panicked, but you kept your head. That's rare." Kilara felt a strange mix of pride and humility. "I am trained for such situations," she said, though the statement felt inadequate. Watching Marcus act so naturally, she realized her training, while precise, lacked the fluidity of his human instincts. As they finished stabilizing the sector, Marcus noticed something unusual. One of the cargo drones had a hidden compartment that shouldn't have existed. It was small, metallic, and contained a data crystal. Kilara's eyes narrowed. "This isn't part of the station's inventory," she said. "Someone is hiding information here." Marcus picked up the crystal, examining it carefully. "Looks like someone wants to sabotage operations or steal sensitive data." Kilara nodded, her mind racing. "We need to find out who, but we must be careful. Humans often act impulsively when angered." "We cannot allow emotions to cloud judgment." Marcus smiled faintly. "I think we're going to make a good team." They followed the crystal's data trail through the station, moving cautiously through shadowed corridors. Kilara noted Marcus's instincts, how he paused to listen, how he predicted where intruders might be based on sound and movement. Humans were often unpredictable, yes, but when trained, they were remarkably precise. Finally, they reached a small cargo bay at the far end of the station. Inside, two figures were attempting to access another data terminal. Marcus raised his hand, signaling Kilara to stay back. He stepped forward, voice firm. "Stop! Identify yourselves." The figures froze, clearly surprised by the sudden appearance of a human soldier and a Zythurian diplomat. Marcus's calm authority, combined with Kilara's poised presence, was a force few could resist. We're technicians," one of them stammered. "WWE didn't mean any harm." Kilara's psychic senses detected subtle deceit. "They're lying," she said quietly to Marcus. "Their intentions are not pure." Marcus nodded. Without aggression, he moved closer, his presence commanding. "Explain the crystal. Why is it hidden? Who sent you?" The figures exchanged nervous glances. Under Marcus's unwavering gaze and Kilara's quiet authority, they confessed. A rogue faction intended to disrupt communications between humans and Zythurians, hoping to spark distrust and conflict. Kilara felt a chill. Conflict between humans and her species could spiral out of control quickly, but Marcus remained calm. His confidence didn't waver, even in the face of potential disaster. "Thank you for your honesty," Marcus said. "You will help us secure the station and report to the council. Any attempt to resist will fail." The technicians nodded, relief evident on their faces. Kilara watched Marcus and felt admiration growing inside her. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also courageous, clever, and capable of inspiring loyalty even in those who might oppose them. Once the situation was under control, Kilara and Marcus walked together back through the station corridors. Kilara found herself speaking, something she rarely did with humans outside of formal duties. "Today, you have shown me something I did not expect," she said. "Humans are more capable than I believed." Marcus smiled, a soft, almost shy expression. "We can surprise you sometimes. But the real strength comes from working together. Zythurians and humans, side by side, that's when anything is possible." Kilara nodded slowly, letting the words sink in. Perhaps she had been wrong to fear humans so much. Perhaps fear had kept her from seeing their true potential, courage, loyalty, adaptability. As they reached her quarters, Marcus turned to her. "Tomorrow, we'll review the security protocols for the rest of the station. More rogue factions could be out there. We need to be ready." Kilara felt a sense of anticipation. Working alongside Marcus was challenging, yes, but also inspiring. He was more than a soldier. He was a teacher, showing her a perspective she had never known. "I look forward to it," she said carefully, her voice carrying a hint of sincerity. Marcus nodded. "Good, we'll make sure this station remains safe together." That night, Kilara sat by the observation window, staring at the stars. Today had been intense, exhausting, and thrilling. But most importantly, it had been enlightening. Humans were not merely impulsive or chaotic. They were capable of greatness, of heroism, of inspiring others to rise above fear. She thought of Marcus, brave, steady, loyal, and unexpectedly kind. She realized that her fear of humans had been a barrier, not only professionally but personally. Perhaps one day she could imagine a future where humans were not just allies but partners. The stars twinkled above Lethira, and Kilara allowed herself to dream quietly. Dreams of courage, of partnership, and maybe even of love. And as she closed her eyes, she knew one thing for certain. With humans like Marcus, the future held possibilities she had never dared imagine. The day had begun quietly, with the station's soft hum filling every corridor. Kilara moved through the observation decks, her thoughts still replaying the events from yesterday. Humans were capable of bravery, yes, but would they hold under pressure in a real crisis? She had yet to test that theory. That theory was about to be tested sooner than she expected. An urgent alarm cut through the calm. Red lights flashed across the station's panels. A booming voice echoed over the intercom. "Warning, unauthorized vessel approaching. All personnel prepare for possible breach." Kilara's chest tightened. She had faced threats before, but never one that felt this close, this immediate. She hurried toward the docking command center, her long fingers flying over her console to access all security feeds. Marcus was already there, standing at the center of the room. His posture was calm, but his eyes scanned every monitor with precision. "What's the situation?" Kilara asked, arriving beside him. "Pirate vessels," he said tersely. "Small fleet, lightly armed, but fast. They're heading straight for the outer docking bays, likely attempting a quick hit-and-grab." Kilara frowned. "They could damage critical supplies or worse, harm civilians." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Then we stop them together." Kilara swallowed her nervousness. Together. That word had echoed in her mind ever since they had first worked side by side. Perhaps it meant more than partnership. Perhaps it meant trust. They coordinated quickly. Kilara accessed station systems, opening bulkhead controls and redirecting power to defensive shields. Marcus ran through security protocols, issuing orders to human and Zythurian personnel alike. "Seal the external airlocks," Marcus commanded. Route all non-essential personnel to safe zones. Prepare defensive drones. Kalara's hands moved over her console, rerouting power with precise efficiency. She felt a thrill she had rarely experienced, a mixture of fear and determination. Humans might be unpredictable, but when guided, they could achieve incredible things. And here was one human, standing beside her, embodying the very best of his species. As the first pirate vessels appeared on the monitors, Kalara noticed something troubling. They were not attacking in conventional formation. They were weaving through the station's defenses, exploiting weaknesses in its shields. Marcus noticed it too. "They're smart," he said, eyes narrowing. "Not mindless raiders, they know what they're doing." Kalara hesitated. This is dangerous, she thought. But fear was not an option. She trusted Marcus, and together they could act faster than any individual could alone. "Marcus, follow me," she said. Using her psychic perception, she guided him toward a tactical station hidden behind the main control room. From there, they could manipulate the station's automated defenses more efficiently. Marcus followed without question, his trust in her evident. Kalara realized something remarkable. For the first time, she did not fear humans. She respected them. And she trusted one human completely. Once at the tactical station, they worked in tandem. Kalara predicted the pirates' maneuvers, adjusting the shields and drone patterns to intercept attacks. Marcus executed those commands, coordinating security teams and launching drones with precision. The pirates struck hard, ramming a small supply vessel. Kalara felt a jolt of panic, but Marcus remained steady, shouting orders to keep the crew safe. Together, they moved like a single unit, Kalara predicting, Marcus reacting, both guiding the station's defenses with unmatched efficiency. One of the pirate vessels attempted to disable a primary docking bay. Kalara spotted the maneuver instantly. "Marcus, the eastern shield." "Redirect power before they hit." Marcus acted immediately, overriding the station systems. The shield flared to life just in time, absorbing the impact of the vessel's ram. Sparks flew across the monitors, and Kalara felt a thrill of relief. Humans were capable of quick thinking, yes, and when paired with her foresight, unstoppable. But the pirates were not done. They deployed boarding pods, small craft meant to infiltrate the station directly. Kalara's heart raced. This was dangerous, and the lives of hundreds depended on their next moves. Marcus's eyes met hers, steady and calm. "We handle this together," he said. Kalara nodded, together. She had come to realize that trust was not just about relying on another. It was about believing in their abilities, their character, and their courage. Marcus had all three in abundance. They split duties. Marcus took the upper decks, intercepting the boarding pods with his team, while Kalara monitored internal systems, closing doors and rerouting power to contain intruders. The first boarding pod hit the upper deck, and Marcus was there to meet it. He moved swiftly, neutralizing the intruders with non-lethal measures, his experience evident in every motion. Kalara observed remotely, impressed by his control and restraint. Humans might have strength, yes, but they also had discipline, a lesson Kalara had underestimated. As the boarding attempts continued, Kalara noticed a pod approaching the lower decks. Civilians were in that area, including several young Zythurians. Her heart leapt. She could not allow harm to come to them. "Marcus!" she shouted over the communication link. "Lower docking bay, boarding pod incoming. Civilians are present." Marcus's voice crackled in response. "I'm on it. Evacuate as many as you can. I'll intercept." Kalara quickly opened automated pathways, guiding civilians to safe zones while keeping the pod contained. Marcus arrived just in time, using his strength and skill to block the intruders. Kalara's psychic abilities complemented his actions, creating a coordinated defense that neither could achieve alone. When the pod was finally neutralized, Marcus and Kalara stood side by side, breathing heavily but victorious. The pirates had been repelled, their fleet scattered, and the station remained intact. Kalara felt a rush of gratitude and admiration. Humans, she realized, were capable of heroism in its purest form, not reckless courage, but deliberate, calculated bravery. Marcus embodied that courage completely. They debriefed together, reviewing the security breaches and analyzing the pirates' tactics. Kalara spoke carefully, noting the intelligence behind the attacks and suggesting improvements to the station's defenses. Marcus nodded thoughtfully, integrating her insights into actionable plans. "You're more capable than I imagined." Marcus said quietly as they worked. Zythurians think quickly, but you also anticipate in ways humans rarely do. Kilara felt her cheeks warm. Compliments were rare for her species, and she had never heard one so sincere. And humans adapt quickly, she admitted. You are impressive. Marcus smiled faintly, a mix of pride and humility. We can surprise you sometimes. As the station returned to normal operations, Kilara reflected on the day. Fear had driven her for so long, fear of humans, fear of unpredictability, fear of loss. But Marcus had shown her another way: trust, courage, and teamwork. Later that evening, Kilara found herself walking beside Marcus along the observation deck. The stars of Lethira stretched infinitely before them, a tapestry of possibilities. Today, Kilara began slowly, unsure how to phrase her thoughts. Today I learned something important. Humans can be trusted, they can be courageous, and they can inspire loyalty and hope in others. Marcus glanced at her. It's true, but it's not just humans, it's individuals. People you choose to trust and work with, that's where strength comes from. Kilara nodded, feeling the truth of his words. Perhaps her fear of humans had been more about her assumptions than reality. Perhaps with the right human she could imagine a future not filled with anxiety but with partnership and trust. Marcus, she said quietly, I thank you for everything today, for showing me that humans can be more than I expected. Marcus looked at her with steady, calm eyes. You don't need to thank me. We make a good team. That's all that matters. Kilara's heart warmed together. She thought of the word again, realizing that trust and courage were the foundation of any partnership, whether in battle, in diplomacy, or in life. As the station lights dimmed and the corridors emptied, Kilara felt a sense of hope she had not experienced before. Humans were not reckless or dangerous. They were capable, courageous, and capable of inspiring greatness in others. And Marcus Venn was living proof of that truth. For the first time, Kilara allowed herself to imagine the impossible, a future where humans and Zythurians could not only coexist but thrive together. A future where courage, loyalty, and trust could overcome fear. And perhaps one day, a future where love could bridge the gap between species. The stars outside twinkled quietly, reflecting on her thoughts. Kilara knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. Challenges and dangers would come, testing her resolve and faith. But with humans like Marcus by her side, she felt a strength she had never known, a courage born of trust, partnership, and the knowledge that together they could face anything. The station was quiet at first, with only the soft hum of machinery and the distant chatter of engineers filling the corridors. Kilara moved through the observation deck, her mind still replaying the events of the past 2 days. Humans were courageous, yes, but could they handle a full-scale crisis? Today, she would find out. A sudden, high-pitched alarm pierced the calm. Red lights flashed, and a booming voice over the intercom shouted, Critical breach. All personnel evacuate non-essential areas immediately. Repeat. Critical breach detected. Kilara's heart raced. The sensors indicated a massive asteroid field had collided with a nearby cargo route, sending fragments hurtling toward the station. Several docking bays were damaged, and the force of the impact had compromised the station's outer shields. She raced to the command center, her long legs moving swiftly. Marcus was already there, analyzing the situation on multiple monitors. His expression was calm, but Kilara noticed the tension in his posture. He had faced danger before, but the stakes had never been this high. Hundreds of lives depended on their actions. They're hitting the northern sector, Marcus said quickly. Outer shields are failing. If we don't act fast, the impact could damage the central systems. Kilara took a deep breath, her mind racing. This is it, she thought. This is when humans and Zythurians must work together, and I must step up. Marcus, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, I'll coordinate internal systems. You handle the defensive measures and evacuations. We must act fast. Marcus nodded. Agreed. Let's do this. Kilara's fingers flew over the console. She rerouted power to the station's inner shields, stabilizing the structural integrity of the northern docking bays. Simultaneously, she opened evacuation corridors, guiding civilians and non-essential personnel to safe zones. Outside, the asteroid fragments tore through space, some striking minor defense drones, others ricocheting dangerously close to the station's hull. Marcus moved swiftly through the command center, issuing orders with precision. He coordinated both human and Zythurian security teams, positioning drones to intercept debris and keeping personnel safe. Kelara monitored the systems, noticing a weakness in the secondary shield matrix. If the fragments hit at the wrong angle, critical life support systems could be damaged. "Marcus," she called, "secondary shields at Sector 7 are weakening. Divert additional energy before impact." Marcus's hands moved quickly over his console. "On it! Get civilians clear of that area now." Kelara activated automated doors, sealing corridors and guiding people to safe zones. Humans, Zythurians, and even other species working on the station moved in unison, following the clear instructions Marcus and Kelara provided. The first large fragment struck the northern shields. Sparks flew across the monitors, and the station shuddered violently. Kelara's stomach lurched, but she kept her hands steady, rerouting power to prevent catastrophic failure. Marcus shouted over the alarm, "Keep going, you're doing great, Kelara." Her heart leapt. Humans were capable of encouragement even in danger, a trait her species often lacked. She felt a surge of determination. Together, they could protect the station. Fragment after fragment slammed against the shields. Kelara's calculations were precise, but she realized she could not predict every trajectory alone. Marcus's instincts guided the security drones to intercept debris in ways her calculations hadn't accounted for. "You think too small," he said briefly as he activated a series of countermeasures. "Think of how they move, not just where they are." Kelara smiled faintly, admiration growing for this human soldier. Humans might be unpredictable, but when guided by courage and experience, they could outperform even the most precise algorithms. The situation grew worse. A fragment had breached the outer hull near one of the docking bays, threatening a supply vessel containing vital life support equipment. Kelara's chest tightened. If the vessel was damaged, the station's survival was at risk. "We have to evacuate it," she said. "Marcus, can you coordinate the retrieval?" Marcus nodded. "I'll go with the team. You stay here and manage the systems." Kelara hesitated. He was going into direct danger, and yet he moved with calm determination. This is human courage, she thought. Bravery and responsibility intertwined. Marcus led a small team to secure the vessel. Kelara monitored their progress from the control room, guiding them through safe paths and rerouting energy to stabilize damaged corridors. The vessel was precarious, dangling from damaged docking arms. Marcus assessed the situation quickly and gave orders to secure it with cables and drone assistance. The team moved like a well-oiled machine, humans and Zythurians working side by side, following the soldier's lead. Kelara's mind raced as she watched. She had feared humans' impulsiveness, their recklessness, but Marcus demonstrated patience, precision, and courage. He inspired others to act with confidence, even under extreme danger. One final fragment approached, a massive rock spinning toward the docking bay. Marcus looked up from the vessel, calculating the trajectory. Kelara's heart pounded. "Divert shields now," she shouted. Marcus quickly signaled the drones, directing them to create a temporary barrier. Kelara rerouted all available energy to reinforce the shield. The fragment struck with tremendous force, and the docking bay trembled violently. Sparks and smoke filled the monitors, but the vessel and its contents remained intact. Kelara exhaled, relief flooding her. Marcus's team cheered quietly, their energy and teamwork saving the day. Back in the command center, Kelara felt a new sense of clarity. Humans were not reckless, they were capable of strategic, courageous action, and when paired with her precision and foresight, they could achieve remarkable things. Marcus returned shortly after, face smudged with soot but eyes calm and steady. "All secure," he said simply. Kelara smiled faintly. "You and your team were remarkable." Marcus shrugged, a faint grin appearing. "We did what had to be done, and you kept this station alive from here. That was impressive." Kelara felt warmth in her chest. She had worked alongside a human, and together they had prevented disaster. Fear no longer clouded her judgment, trust and respect had replaced it. As the station quieted and damage reports were assessed, Kelara found herself walking beside Marcus along the observation deck. The stars stretched infinitely before them, calm and beautiful after the chaos. "Marcus," she said quietly, I have learned so much today. Humans are capable of courage I did not understand, and you inspire others to act with bravery." Marcus looked at her, his dark eyes steady. "We all have potential," he said. "It's not about being human or Zythurian, it's about choice. Courage is a choice. Loyalty is a choice, and leadership is about trusting those around you. Kelara nodded, feeling the truth of his words. Fear had once controlled her thoughts, but today she had seen the power of trust, partnership, and courage. Marcus had not just acted heroically. He had taught her a lesson about humanity, about life, and about possibility. Perhaps, Kelara said quietly, I was wrong to fear humans. Perhaps, with the right human, anything is possible. Marcus smiled faintly. I think you're starting to understand, and I think you're capable of more than you realize, Kelara. She felt a warmth she had not felt before. Trust, courage, and partnership. These were the pillars of survival, of leadership, and perhaps of something more. She realized that fear no longer needed to dominate her choices. Humans, like Marcus, could teach lessons that went beyond logic or training. They could teach her about hope, resilience, and the courage to imagine a future she had once thought impossible. As the stars of Lethira shimmered outside, Kelara allowed herself a thought she had long avoided. Perhaps humans were not just allies. Perhaps they were companions, capable of inspiring greatness in ways her species had rarely experienced. And perhaps, one day, one human in particular could change her life entirely. The station was quiet at dawn, the soft hum of machinery blending with the distant light of Lethira's twin suns. Kelara stood at the observation deck, gazing at the stars that stretched infinitely before her. The past few days had been a whirlwind of danger, courage, and discovery, but this morning felt different. The crisis had passed, and the station was secure. Civilians were safe, systems stabilized, and the rogue factions had been repelled. For the first time, Kelara could breathe freely, knowing that she and Marcus had guided the station through chaos together. She felt a presence behind her. Marcus stepped onto the deck, his boots making soft echoes on the metallic floor. His dark eyes scanned the stars before meeting hers. "Good morning," he said, his voice calm as ever. "The station looks peaceful, doesn't it?" Kelara nodded. "Yes, too peaceful, perhaps." "After the past days, it feels strange not to be on high alert." Marcus chuckled softly. "I imagine you'll get used to it, and when the next challenge comes, we'll handle it just like we did before." Kelara smiled faintly, a warmth in her chest she could not name. It was more than relief. It was admiration, trust, and something deeper. She had feared humans, feared their unpredictability, feared what it would mean to open her life to one. But Marcus had proven her fears unfounded. Together they had faced danger, guided others, and achieved something neither could have done alone. And in that shared experience, Kelara found a connection she had never expected. "Marcus," she began slowly, unsure how to phrase her thoughts, "I thank you for everything. For your courage, your guidance, for showing me that humans can inspire greatness, not just in themselves, but in others too." Marcus's eyes softened, and a faint smile appeared on his face. "Kelara, you've done just as much. You stayed calm, calculated, and led systems that saved lives. Humans have courage, yes, but we need minds like yours to make it effective. We were a team." Kelara felt a blush rise to her cheeks. Compliments were rare for her species, especially one so personal. But Marcus's sincerity left no doubt in her mind. Together, they had achieved something extraordinary. The two of them walked along the observation deck, side by side in a comfortable silence. The events of the past days replayed in Kelara's mind. The intruders, the boarding pods, the asteroid fragments. Each crisis had tested her fears, her assumptions, and her understanding of humans. And each time Marcus had shown her the best of his species: courage, loyalty, ingenuity, and a willingness to risk himself for others. As they approached the docking bays, Kelara noticed the station crew beginning repairs. Humans and Zythurians worked side by side, sharing tools, ideas, and encouragement. The chaos of before had been replaced with cooperation and purpose. Kelara turned to Marcus. "I have something to ask you," she said softly. Marcus raised an eyebrow, curiosity evident. "Go on." She hesitated for a moment, then spoke with honesty she rarely allowed herself. "I have always feared humans, feared the unpredictability, the danger, the emotions. I was afraid to start a family with one. But after working with you, seeing your courage, your loyalty, your integrity, I believe my fears were wrong. I want to take a leap of faith." Marcus's eyes widened slightly, then softened. "A leap of faith?" he asked. Kelara nodded. "Yes. I want to imagine a future where humans and Zythurians can share life, build something together. I want to believe that love, courage, and trust can bridge the gap between species. and I want to start that journey with you if you will have me." Marcus was silent for a moment, taking in her words. Then a warm smile spread across his face. "Kilara, you don't need to ask. I've felt the same since the moment we started working together. You've shown me what courage and intelligence truly mean. And yes, I want to take that leap with you." Kilara felt her chest swell with hope and relief. For the first time, fear had no hold over her. Trust, admiration, and love had replaced it. She allowed herself to imagine a future filled with partnership, courage, and family, a life built on mutual respect and care. The two of them returned to the observation deck, standing together as the twin suns of Lethira bathed the station in soft golden light. Around them, humans and Zythurians worked in harmony, repairing systems and sharing resources. The events of the past days had proven something extraordinary. When species worked together, guided by courage and trust, they could achieve greatness. Kilara thought of the future. A future where humans were not just allies, but companions and partners. A future where courage, loyalty, and love could shape lives in ways she had never dared imagine. She looked at Marcus, his dark eyes reflecting the stars, and felt a surge of confidence. Humans could be brave, intelligent, and reliable, and with one particular human by her side, she could face anything the galaxy threw at her. "Marcus," she said quietly, "let's make the future we imagine, together." He nodded, placing a hand gently on hers. "Together," he agreed. The station buzzed quietly around them, but for Kilara and Marcus, time seemed to slow. The chaos of the past had passed, replaced by the calm certainty of trust and partnership. They had faced danger, survived, and learned to rely on each other. And in that trust, they had found something far more valuable than survival: hope. Hope for peace, hope for courage, hope for love. Days passed, and the station returned to its normal rhythm. Kilara and Marcus continued their work, overseeing repairs, improving security systems, and guiding human and Zythurian crews alike. But beyond the professional, a bond deepened. They shared quiet moments in the observation deck, discussing the stars, the future, and their dreams. Kilara found herself imagining a family, a child with both human and Zythurian traits, strong, curious, and courageous. She pictured a future where humans and Zythurians could coexist peacefully, raising the next generation to value trust, bravery, and compassion above all. One evening, as the station lights dimmed and the stars twinkled like diamonds, Kilara stood with Marcus, looking out over Lethira. "I used to fear humans," she admitted softly. "But now, with you, I see possibilities I never dared imagine. Courage, loyalty, even love, humans are capable of all these things." Marcus smiled. "And Zythurians, what about us?" Kilara laughed lightly, warmth spreading through her chest. "You taught me that trust and courage are universal, that we are stronger together than apart. You taught me to believe not just in humans, but in hope itself." He took her hand, holding it firmly but gently. "Then let's keep believing, together." Kilara nodded, a sense of peace settling over her. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous. But with courage, trust, and partnership, anything was possible. And with Marcus by her side, she knew she could face the future without fear. As the twin suns of Lethira set, casting a soft glow over the station, Kilara allowed herself a quiet smile. Fear had been replaced with hope, doubt had been replaced with trust, and the possibility of love had been embraced without hesitation. The stars outside twinkled like promises of a better tomorrow. Kilara and Marcus stood together, united in courage, trust, and partnership. Together, they would face whatever challenges the galaxy held. And perhaps one day they would share more than just duty and friendship. Perhaps they would share life itself, a family, a home, and a future built on the lessons they had learned together. The station hummed softly, calm, and alive. Humans and Zythurians moved through the corridors, working, laughing, and living side by side. The past dangers had forged bonds that would not easily break, and Kilara knew that the future was bright. With Marcus by her side, she was no longer afraid. She was ready to embrace the possibilities of life, love, and courage. The galaxy awaited. And Kilara, for the first time, was ready to meet it, with a human at her side.